When he opened his eyes and looked at me, I realized one thing. He is my son, not by blood, by life, by love. Laura and I have separated for now. She wants to make things right, but I'm not ready to even talk about it. Ryan said he won't interfere until I decide what to do. He wants a DNA test, but only if I agree. I haven't agreed yet. The court case continues. I'm living on Pete's couch, and every evening I write and rewrite this story, trying to make sense of it. How I've changed, I've become more attentive to people, to feelings, to the fact that you can lose a family not in an accident, but in silence, in tiny things, in what's left unsaid. What's next, I don't know. Maybe I'll do the test and learn the truth. Maybe Ryan will be part of Josh's life, or maybe not. Maybe I'll forgive Laura, or maybe this is unforgivable. But one thing I know for sure, I won't abandon Josh. He was my son for 7 years, and that's all that matters. Update hi to everyone who supported me or simply read my story. I didn't think I'd write an update, but too much has happened over the past few days. If in the first post I was just in shock, now everything is deeper, more painful, more complicated. 1. My son woke up and asked the one question I wasn't ready for. Josh is getting better, still weak, but he smiles when he sees me. Yesterday he said, "Dad, you're not mad anymore?" And I just broke. He doesn't know the storm around him. He doesn't know his life is tangled with choices that were never his. He doesn't know adults can behave worse than children. I said, "No, buddy. I'm not mad at you or anyone. I'm here, always." And in that moment, I realized I'd endure anything for him. 2. Laura and I talked again, and it was worse than the first time she came to the hospital looking normal, but her eyes like she hadn't slept in days. I knew the conversation would be heavy. She said, "I'm ready for the tests. I'm ready for a divorce if that's what you want. I just want you not to pull away from Josh." I didn't expect that kind of directness. I asked again about Ryan, about what they hid, how long it lasted. She said it was one night during a rough period in our marriage, and yes, that part was true. We really were struggling with work, debt, sick parents. I want to believe her, but I can't yet. 3. Ryan came again, and the conversation was strangely honest. He showed up without warning but didn't go to the room, asked to talk in the cafeteria. I thought I'd snap. But no. We sat there drinking awful hospital coffee, and he looked at me like he was scared to breathe wrong. He said, "If the DNA test shows I'm the father, I won't take your son from you, but I want to be in his life, if possible." He didn't pressure me, didn't act like a hero, didn't demand anything. He looked lost. I'm not excusing him. He took part in what ruined my family, but at least he's honest. More than I can say about some people from my past. 4. The car accident case, and an unexpected twist. At the hearing, the driver's lawyer tried to portray me as an inconsistent parent who doesn't know the child's true medical background, hinting at the blood type issue. Yeah. They tried to use the fact that Josh isn't biologically mine to reduce the compensation. I nearly exploded right there in the courtroom. Thankfully, Attorney Halling stopped me. She said, "They're playing dirty, but we won't let them use your son." The hearing was postponed. I know this isn't over. 5. About the DNA test, I agreed. Not because I want to erase Josh from my life, but because there are too many unknowns. When he grows up, he deserves the truth. Honest, open, no matter how painful. Samples have been taken already. We're waiting. And honestly, the waiting is worse than the news itself. 6. Where I'm living now and what I feel I'm staying at Pete's place, in the guest room he offered. Sometimes it hits me that I'm a failed husband, failed father, failed person. I found out my son isn't mine after the accident. He's in the hospital now, and I'm trying to understand who the real father is and what to do about my wife. I'm 41, live in Colorado, and work at an auto repair shop. I always thought my life was pretty ordinary. My wife Laura, my 7-year-old son Josh, a mortgage, weekend barbecues, evenings with beer and bad sitcoms. We weren't a perfect family, but I felt steady, grounded, like I was where I belonged. And yeah, there were small things I noticed about Laura. She started closing her phone as soon as I walked into the room, began staying late at work, and sometimes her eyes looked distant. But who am I kidding? I was just afraid to ask, thought I was overthinking. Turns out I wasn't. A week ago, I got into an accident with Josh, just like in a cheap movie. Rain, an oncoming pickup skidding toward us, and a single instant when you don't have time to react. I woke up to the smell of burnt plastic and heard a man shouting, "The kid here, hurry!" That was Josh. At the hospital, the doctor said he might need a transfusion and took my blood. At that moment, I was only thinking about my son, that he would live, that I'd have 1,000 more chances to tell him how proud I am of him. A couple of hours later, the doctor came back and said one sentence that knocked the ground out from under me. "I'm sorry, but you can't be the biological father. Your blood types don't match." I remember laughing, a real nervous laugh, the kind that makes you feel sick. Then I stopped laughing and realized nothing would ever be the same again. While Josh was in intensive care, I basically lived in the hospital corridors. Laura arrived that evening, in tears, terrified, and yes, I saw in her eyes that she knew I knew. "Andrew, please," she started, but I just asked, "Who?" Her silence was worse than an admission, but then the admission came anyway. "It was one time. I didn't think. I was sure he was yours." "Yeah, of course." Meanwhile, the accident case started. The pickup driver was drunk. I had to give statements, go to hearings, deal with lawyers, and all that time my son, even if not by blood, was lying in a room full of tubes and machines. I was losing my mind from helplessness. Side characters, like in real Reddit stories, Pete, my friend and the shop owner, he tried to support me but looked scared to say anything wrong. Attorney Hollings, the woman handling the case against the driver. Dr. Higgins, the doctor who told me everything. And one more person, but later. How I tried to find out who the father was. Laura insisted it was one time with someone she never saw again. But I could see she was looking down, hiding something, scared. I checked old messages, reread her social media, looked at family photos from angles I never thought to look from before. People online say this kind of searching is the worst thing you can do. They're right. And the strangest thing, the truth found me instead. 2 days ago, a man approached me, around 35 to 40, denim jacket, hoodie pulled up, clearly nervous. "Andrew Miller?" "Yes." "My name is Ryan Brooks. We need to talk." I thought he was some lawyer from the case, but no. He said, "Laura told me everything. I didn't know she had a son, and I might be his father." I've never heard silence like the one after those words. He told me they worked together on a university project years ago, that they grew close, that he later moved to another state, and that he had no idea about the child. And you know what's the scariest part? I believed him. He didn't look like someone trying to steal a family. He looked like someone who didn't know what to do with himself. And yes, he apologized. Not for Laura, but for the crack in my life that can't be fixed now. I walked out into the corridor, sat on a plastic chair, and stared at one spot for 10 minutes. Didn't cry, didn't scream, just stopped being who I was. Josh luckily is recovering. He's still weak but conscious. I know logically that it's not true, but the feeling sits there anyway. The internet is divided. Some say divorce and leave. Others say, think about your son. I do think about my son, always. But I also think about myself, and about how trust, once broken, doesn't come back in one piece. 7. A conversation I didn't expect tonight. Right before writing this, Josh asked, Dad, can Ryan come again? You're not mad, right? I almost dropped my cup. I don't know how he knows the name. Maybe Laura told him. Maybe he overheard something. But the fact that he's even thinking about any of this, he's just a kid. He shouldn't carry this weight. It tears me apart. I said, "We'll talk about it, buddy. I promise."